Hello everybody, it's Robbie here, and today I'm coming to you with a review of the new Mystery of History Volume 1. And I say new because although the curriculum is not new, it is a new version. It's a new edition, I should say. It's a third edition to this particular volume. And prior to this release, it was an all-in-one workbook text. So it was like a work text, I guess you'd say. But now they actually have a student reader and then an online PDF that comes with it for free here. And this is the companion guide. So this is like the teacher manual and then all of the worksheets. So there's worksheets, there's pre-tests, there's maps, there's quizzes, there's tests. There's all kinds of resources in this thing. In fact, there's almost 600 pages, single-sided. So double-sided, you're looking at, almost 300 pages double-sided. And you can buy this in print as well, which I would highly recommend if you do not have a efficient way of printing this. It's mostly black and white, so you're not going to use a lot of color, but it's still a lot of ink unless you have a subscription service or continuous ink, printer or a laser printer, which in my case I have a laser printer. So it was actually worth it for me to go ahead and print it, but you can buy this separately, just FYI. So there's a lot to this, and it's really, really cool. We have not used it yet. I'm contemplating this for next year. I'm very heavily leaning towards this for next year. And so I wanted to get it in my hands and take a look at it because I've used the volume 2 with my older son, and we used that in 6th grade. And so I'm very familiar with the format of Mystery of History. So since ancient history is what I wanted to focus on for this next school year with my 10-year-old, he'll be in 5th grade, I was debating between two different curricula, and this was one of them. So Timberdoodle allowed me to purchase this at a discount in order to review it. And so I am doing that, and now after having looked at it, this is what I'm heavily leaning towards for next year. So now let me go ahead and show you what is involved and give you a peek inside of this curriculum so you can decide for yourself if this is something that you might be interested in. Okay, so first I want to take a look at the student text, is what they've been calling it. So literally this is written to the student. It's written in narrative form. It includes many, many beautiful color pictures, illustrations, maps, all kinds of things. And it's very informative to the teacher as well. So if you go in to the book, you have your table of contents, and it's broken down by semester. So you'll have semester 1, semester 2, and there are 3 lessons per week. So you have 36 weeks worth of lessons if you do this 3 times a week or do 3 lessons a week. You could potentially take longer if you're using this for either older students or middle students that you want to test and give official grades for, because once you've completed the lessons, there are some review exercises and some quizzes and things like that you could do. There's activities included. You could stretch this out to be a 5-day-a-week curriculum easily if you wanted to, or you could stretch this out to go over a couple of years. So it's very flexible, but I like that it's kind of scheduled out so you at least know where you're at. There's a preface here, acknowledgments, and then it includes some letters to the students. So the way this is structured is that you can use this for multi-ages. So if you have students at different levels, different ages, you can use this for all of them up through high school. And the thing that I want to at least mention about this is that when she originally wrote this, and she talks about this in here as well, is that she wrote volume 1 to be about a 4th and 5th grade level reading. Then it jumps up 2 grades per volume. It jumps per level in terms of reading level. So that's something to keep in mind if you're using some of the other volumes for younger students or using this volume for older students. As they're reading through the content, it might seem a little juvenile for older students, or a little simplified in terms of the way it reads, but the content is excellent. So it's nice to be able to use this for different ages, and the activities then will be structured to the various age levels depending upon which activities you choose. So it's still very customizable, even though the reading levels vary per volume. So this is actually very informative. There's a lot of enrichment included in here, so you can choose to use it or choose to not. It talks about how you're going to get a pretest before you start the series of lessons. And the pretests basically just give you an idea on what your students an idea of what they already know that's going to be covered. And it's not meant to be graded. It's not meant to be recorded as a grade. It's just meant to be a light and stimulating. It says, make it light and stimulating for any age group. She does not recommend recording grades on pretests. It was always kind of fun to see what they already knew. And we did do those when we did this before. And unless you think it's going to stress out your child, some kids might stress out over that. It's included, but of course is optional. Then you've got the lessons themselves, which come out of the reader, and they're all broken down by lesson. So it's real easy to figure out when to start and when to stop the reading. There's 36 weeks worth of lessons. And this is where she talks about how the volumes jump in grade level. So volume 1, 4th to 5th, volume 2, 6th to 7th, volume 3, 8th to 9th, volume 4, 10th to 11th grade level. So she wanted this to benefit as many age groups as possible. There's activities included, and they break them down by age group. There's a take another look review. So after students have read 3 lessons, again, 3 lessons per week is what is scheduled out, then there's another day where you can do these take another look reviews if you want to. They can do some memory cards, they can do some geography, and all the maps are included, and they can do timeline figures. This course focuses very heavily on, or that's not a good way to word it. This course emphasizes timelines and provides these little figurines that you can cut out and customize for any time period. Or you can actually purchase a separate timeline, a set of separate timeline figures, and they give you the links to those. Or I found this one, which is actually a lot cheaper, and so I want to give a shout out to this particular website. It's myhomeschoolprintables.net. And these are just adorable. They color them in. You can use them in a timeline book, or you can use them in the timeline board that they give you instructions on and recommend. If you have younger students, they might prefer the timeline board, and they give instructions on that, but basically you're using one of those big fold out, if you're a seamstress or if you've ever sewn, you might know what this is. It's a big sewing board. I know there's a better term for it, and I actually used to sew a lot, and I had one of these, and I can't think of what it's called, but it's accordion style, and it folds out. It's probably about as big as this table once you can't see the whole table. Yeah, it's probably about 3 feet by 4 feet, something along those lines, because it's got the lines, the marking lines and the cut lines, for cutting fabric. So you would cover it and then use make your own timeline with their figures, or you could use these, either way. Or for us, what we're going to do, and they actually give you a resource for buying a timeline book. You could make one, or I already had this one. This was from Bookshark, and we'd actually done a little bit of this, and I'd actually bought these figurines before. Figures. I'd bought these timeline figures before. Bookshark includes their own, but I wanted to include the biblical ones as well. So we started this book, and we didn't really finish the timeline in ancient history. This is like first or second grade we worked on this. So I figured we'll get to utilize this, and I'll just do these instead. So these were like $5.50, and it's a PDF that you just print. And I think if you buy the others, it's only available in hard copy, and it's like $24 or something. So I'll link all this stuff below if you want to take a look. But I chose to go that route. So that's what you could do in addition to the actual lessons. Then there is a what did you miss exercise and what did you learn quizzes. So the what did you miss and what did you learn, they alternate those every other week. So one week you'll have a what did you miss exercise, and the next week you'll have a what did you learn quiz. So if you're wanting to issue grades or you really just want to see what they've retained, you have that opportunity to do that, to do those assignments. Then there's quarterly worksheets which are basically review sheets, and those are open book. They just fill those out. If you want to do a quarterly test, they can do that. They use that as a study guide, and then there's a semester test. So there's the quarterly worksheets, which they would fill out open book style, and based on whatever notes they've taken, if they've done their own flashcards, or just want to use the textbook, and then they would use those to study for a semester test if they would like to do that. And then they give, there's a glossary in the companion guide that gives additional resources, books and films, audiobooks, supplemental products, and she lists some of those here. You can get them on CD, like challenge cards, coloring pages, notebooking pages, and she called them folder books, but if you're familiar with lap books, that'd basically be what that is. They offer online classes too, if you wanted a live and or a self-paced class. I think it depends on what volume. They don't offer both for all of them. She mentions here that she does personally a live class on the volume 4. And so the others are probably self-paced, but anyway, you could take a look at that. And then she just references the companion guide there. So it starts with creation and goes all the way through the resurrection. And it is a Christian curriculum, which I'm sure you've already figured that out based on the artwork that was on the front. I should have mentioned that up front. It is coming from a young earth perspective. And these initial chapters are pretty light in terms of content, and then as it goes along, it gets a little deeper. But what I love about this curriculum is that it will tie in the biblical history into the other world history that's going on at the same time, and it references both at the same time and ties them together. So I marked this page because this was a really beautiful example of how it's done. So this is where the book references the Phoenicians, and then it talks about how it's in Ezekiel, it's prophesied about the Phoenicians, and it says in Ezekiel 26 that they will plunder your riches and pillage your merchandise. I will make you like the top of a rock. You shall be a place for spreading nets, and you shall never be rebuilt, for I, the Lord, have spoken. Then all the princes of the sea will come down from their thrones, and they will take up a lamentation for you, and say to you, how you have perished, O one inhabited by seafaring men, O renowned city who was strong at sea. And then it gives the scripture references. My dog wants out, and she keeps ringing the bell, so I apologize for that. I know you can hear it. So this was in reference to the Phoenicians, and so this prophecy makes more sense now that they have talked about the Phoenicians. Then it talks, it gives some photographs. It talks about their alphabet and that sort of thing. But I love how it ties in the biblical history. And over here, even before they talk about the scripture, it talks about King Ahab of Israel, who I guess is going to be studied later, how he married the princess of Tyre. And it wasn't a good situation. Jezebel became responsible for the death of many of Israel's prophets. She even tried to kill Elijah. It still isn't just biblical history. It's, world history, but from a Christian worldview, and it ties in biblical history into the other areas of the world history that's covered. So It's really, really well done. It's the words aren't too small. You don't feel, overloaded by the amount of text that's on a page. There's lots of beautiful color photographs and illustrations and maps. There's maps, there's copies, photographs of ancient texts. So you'll find all kinds of photographs in here of the different locations that are being talked about, different artifacts, maps, all that stuff. So even artwork that depicts the different time periods that are being discussed here. So this is really, really well done. And then this bad boy. So this companion guide is pretty extensive. So this is the resources for the teacher. It includes all of the printed materials that the student needs for the pretest, the quizzes, the activities. Some of them are cutouts. You've got maps. You've got all kinds of stuff. So I personally work better from print. If I have to go to a computer and pull it up, and which I will say this PDF is well organized. It's got an index that you can literally just look in the contents and click on it through the PDF viewer, and it'll take you right directly to the area you're looking for. So it's well done. It's not, you're gonna have to, scroll page after page to find what you need. But I personally work better from print. If I don't have it handy, I won't use it. And so for me, it was better to go ahead and print it. But there's a lot here. So I printed this in sections to make it more manageable. I don't like big, huge binders because, again, I don't tend to want to use those. I don't want to pull them out. I don't want to dig through them. I don't want papers coming out and flying everywhere. So I did these in sections. So I printed the teacher instructions and resources, the table of contents. This basically just talks about how the course works. It's got the whole table of contents for the companion guide in it. It's got, again, just instructions to the teacher, scope and sequence. It's got a schedule, a sample schedule if you want to utilize that. But Volume 1 would be considered an Ancient World History credit, Volume 2 a Medieval Studies credit, Volume 3 the Renaissance or Reformation credit, Volume 4 Modern History credit. Just a lot of information here. There was something in here in this first part that I wanted to talk about. Oh, these are the figures that they give for that you can duplicate and cut out and have them color and draw on. If you don't want to do that, these are examples of the other timeline figures that you can get that I told you about. And then I showed you the ones that are available through that other website. It gives you grading tips, and it also gives a progress report sheet. So that is my first section here. And then I printed out based on semester. So I've got the 4 semesters and then the appendix. And so let me show you what a typical week looks like. I'm gonna go over week 1 because she recommends some things in terms of the setup of this particular course that come up in week 1. So there's the pretest. So what do you know? We talked about that already. Then lesson 1 for activities after you do the reading, lesson 1 would be for all students. They break it down into 3 age groups: younger, middle, and older students. So this is for all ages. They want you to create a student notebook, 2 or 3 inch 3-ring binder, and then it literally tells you what to use to create that. So dividers, notebook paper, fine tip markers. There's a world map that you can use for all the different sections if you want to cut the different continents out and put those on the dividers. And then each continent is going to be divided by the countries that are talked about, and it talks about them here. So in Africa, you're going to have Egypt and Tunisia. Antarctica won't have any country dividers. Asia, Europe, North America, Oceania, there's no dividers for those, for South America. And then miscellaneous It's hard to pin down the exact location of some ancient history, so there's a miscellaneous tab. So that's why that would be there. And then lesson 2 talks about Adam and Eve, and then this is where they break down, start breaking down activities by age group. So you've got a younger student, a middle student, and an older student. Ideas for those activities. So the younger students could create a new animal with Play-Doh or clay. The middle students, they recommend doing a self-portrait because we are created in God's image. The older students then would start reading Adam and his kin and discuss. So you can see there's a lot of variety there, and that from the activities that I've taken a look at, I've been really impressed with the ideas. They're very creative and fun, and in some cases they'll include cutouts or printouts that you can do and then cut out as part of the, like this one here. Cut the pattern below to make 7 identical circles on heavy paper. Draw and color a way to depict each of the 7 days of creation. On the back of each circle, write the answer, whether it's day 1, day and night, and so on. Lesson 3 talks about field trip opportunities, or that's for all students, or then we've got activities for younger, middle, and older students. Younger students can name that tune. With any musical instrument, try to make the sounds of a familiar song and have the others guess the song. Octaves on a piano, stringed instrument, or recorder play an octave scale, etc., etc. And then older students research the process of making bronze or iron and emphasize the difficulty of the process and file your findings in your student notebook. So this is the review for the week. Every week we'll have this take another look. And they give you ideas on how to have the students review the materials. They have the memory cards that they can use. You can either print out if you purchase those, or you can make your own. They can use the timeline, which they call the Wall of Fame. They can use the activities and the maps. So the map work does require a Bible atlas. They include suggestions on what Bible atlases to get. So there's one that's an online atlas that they recommend. Then there's a couple of print atlases that they recommend as well. I didn't make that purchase because I already have this one. And I looked through a few of the mapping activities, and I was able to find what I need from this one. If I can find a link to this, I will. I got it at a curriculum sale, so a used curriculum sale. So I don't have any idea if this can be purchased online, but if I can find it, I will link it below, because I did find what I needed for the few map activities that I looked at. I can't say if it's going to work through the whole course, but if not, I guess I can utilize the suggestions that they give or just search online. And I'm assuming that because of the vast information available on the internet, you could probably find what you need just with a search, but I wanted to mention that because they're referencing the way the world looked at the different time during the different time periods. So you definitely need a historical or biblical atlas in order to do some of the map work. So I wanted to mention that. And then that's how a week is structured in this course. And then I wanted to talk about the appendix and what's in the appendix. So the appendix includes the outline maps, and it does tell you how many of each map the student is going to need and what page to find them on. So if, depending upon the ages of the students depends on what maps and how many of each they need. So like for instance, this first map of Persia, the younger and middle students don't need it, but the older students will need one of those. And it gives you all of that information here. And then section 2, or B, sorry, supplemental books and resources, which if you like to, 461. So if you like to incorporate literature into your history course, they give you a lot of resources that you can utilize. Here's the atlases that they recommend. Here's some Bible resources, time period classics, which would be books that you could use to supplement with. This is for all students. This is for the younger and middle students. and middle and older students. So it breaks it down based on the recommended age level or age group. You have primary source material. You have read aloud favorites if you like to incorporate read alouds. They give you some creation science museums and zoos. There's some world history reference books. And then it breaks all the resources down by quarter and by lesson. So if you wanted to utilize quite a few of these resources, but you didn't want to have to try to compile that list all at once, this will break it down for you. So you can just get what you need from the library or just a little at a time so that you're not getting it all at once. And again, this is all optional stuff, but at least it's there if you want it. Then we have the Bible reading list. This gives you the scripture references used in the course and where to find those. And then there's an answer key. This includes all the answers to all of the pre-tests, the quizzes, the activities, the map work, and basically anything that the student has to do. I like that it's at the end because then I can use these other books as a work text and the answers aren't going to be just right there. So yeah, that's it for this course. If you have any questions, let me know. I will try to answer the best I can. Again, I got this through Timberdoodle, and I highly recommend Timberdoodle for everything related to homeschooling. They have a really good selection of products, and they don't carry just everything under the sun. It's not as overwhelming to choose curriculum options from them. So I will definitely link that below. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate you coming and visiting my channel today. If you like this kind of content, please do consider subscribing to my channel and or liking this video. That does help me out, and I will be creating more content very shortly, and just keep an eye out for that, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.